The first thing Victor Hale felt was fury, sharp and instant, like ice cracking underfoot. The security alert had flashed on his phone during a board meeting in downtown Chicago, a silent warning that someone had logged into his private workstation at home. That computer was locked behind layers of protection, filled with company secrets and personal code he trusted no one to touch. When he rushed back to his glass and steel mansion overlooking Lake Michigan, anger burned so hot it drowned out reason. He was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech firm, a man who built his empire on control and precision, and now that control had been violated. But as his eyes fell on the lines of code glowing on the screen, something far more powerful than anger took hold, freezing him in place and changing the course of 2 lives forever. Before the story goes any further, pause for a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the quiet power of compassion that can change a life, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that are still waiting to heal. Victor Hale was known across the United States as a brilliant but distant man. Raised in Ohio by a machinist father and a schoolteacher mother, he had learned early that success came from discipline, not tenderness. After their sudden passing in a winter accident, Victor buried himself in computers, finding comfort in logic where life had been cruelly illogical. Years later, his company in Illinois reshaped cybersecurity standards nationwide, and his face appeared on magazine covers, always serious, always guarded. His mansion was immaculate, silent, and lonely, staffed by people who cleaned and left without ever truly being seen. One of those people was Grace Whitmore, a quiet woman in her late 20s who worked as a live-in maid. She came from a small town in Indiana, where her life had unraveled after her mother's illness drained their savings. Grace had once dreamed of becoming a software engineer, spending nights in community college labs, teaching herself programming from borrowed books. But when her mother passed and bills piled up, dreams became luxuries she could no longer afford. Cleaning houses paid quickly, and when the opportunity to work for Victor Hale appeared, she took it, swallowing her pride along with her hopes. Victor had barely noticed Grace beyond her efficiency. She moved through the house like a shadow, careful, respectful, invisible by design. What Victor never knew was that late at night, after her work was done and the house fell asleep, Grace's fingers itched for more than mops and polish. On that particular evening, a storm rattled the windows, and loneliness pressed heavily on her chest. She sat at Victor's desk, heart pounding, telling herself she would only remind herself she had once been more than this. She accessed the terminal, drawn by muscle memory and longing, and began correcting a flaw she recognized instantly, a vulnerability she had studied years ago. When Victor stormed into the study, his footsteps echoed like thunder. He expected guilt, fear, excuses. Instead, he saw Grace pale and frozen, eyes fixed on the screen as if it might swallow her whole. His voice rose, anger spilling out in harsh accusations, his trust, his privacy, his security. Grace could not speak at first. Shame weighed her down, but beneath it was something else, a fragile resolve. She stepped aside, letting him see the code. Victor leaned closer, prepared to confirm his worst fears, but what he saw made his breath catch. The vulnerability on his system, one his own elite team had missed, had been patched. Not crudely, not experimentally, but with elegance and restraint. The solution was efficient, almost beautiful, the kind of fix that revealed deep understanding. His anger faltered, confusion replacing it, then disbelief. He traced the logic, line by line, realizing this wasn't an accident or a lucky guess. This was the work of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Grace finally found her voice, though it trembled. She explained her past, her studies, the nights she spent learning because code had once made her feel capable and alive. She admitted she had crossed a line, that she expected to be fired, maybe worse. What she did not expect was the silence that followed, heavy and thoughtful. Victor felt something unfamiliar stir inside him. He saw not a thief, but a reflection of himself years ago, alone with a computer, searching for purpose in patterns and logic. In the days that followed, Victor could not shake the image of Grace standing in his study, caught between fear and hope. He reviewed the code again and again, testing it, trying to find flaws, but it held strong. Against every instinct of caution, he made a decision that would have horrified his board of directors. He offered Grace a chance, not as charity, but as opportunity. She would join his company on probation, her skills tested and verified, her past forgiven but not forgotten. Grace's life shifted overnight. Trading her uniform for a badge, she walked into Victor's headquarters feeling like an imposter. The open offices, the hum of servers, the quiet intensity of engineers at work all felt like a world she had been exiled from. Doubt whispered that she did not belong, that this was a mistake waiting to be exposed. But when she sat down and began to work, the noise faded. Code welcomed her back like an old friend. Victor watched from a distance as Grace proved herself. She worked harder than anyone, not from fear, but from gratitude and hunger to reclaim what she had lost. Colleagues began to notice, then respect her. Systems grew stronger under her touch. For Victor, something else changed too. The walls he had built after loss began to crack. He found himself staying later, asking questions, remembering why he had loved this work before success turned it into armor. Months passed, and the company faced a major cyber attack, one that threatened millions of users across the United States. Panic rippled through the executive floors, but Grace remained calm. She led the response with clarity and courage, tracing the attack's source, sealing breaches, turning chaos into control. When the threat ended, applause filled the room, and Victor felt pride swell in his chest, not in himself, but in the woman he had almost dismissed as invisible. Near the end of this story, if it has touched your heart, if it has reminded you that talent can hide in the most unexpected places and that compassion can unlock it, please take a moment to like the video, share it, and let us know your thoughts. Your engagement helps keep these stories alive. Before the ending, we have one special request. Please comment below with the words, "Second chances matter," if you believe that a single act of understanding can change a life. Grace eventually rose through the ranks, her past no longer a secret but a testament to resilience. Victor found something he never expected to regain, connection. He funded scholarships for people like Grace, those whose potential had been buried under circumstance. The mansion by the lake felt less empty, not because it was louder, but because its owner had learned to see the people within it. Victor Hale was still a powerful CEO, still respected and feared in boardrooms, but he was no longer frozen by anger when faced with the unexpected. He had learned that sometimes, the greatest vulnerabilities are not in systems or code, but in hearts closed too tightly. And sometimes, all it takes to change everything is the courage to look beyond a mistake and recognize the brilliance hiding just beneath the surface.